Well, hello and welcome to the Mindset Mentor. Happy Saturday. Are you ready to work out your mindset? Well, let me tell you, the Mindset Mentor is all about helping you cultivate a life you love. And today, we're going to help you develop your voice. Now, it's so important to have a voice. Having a voice is so much more than the pitch, the tone, the sound of your voice. It's really about speaking your truth, letting your personality shine, being an advocate for yourself, and also being an advocate for others who don't necessarily have the voice. That's what I think of when I talk about developing your voice. I mean, there's so many beautiful layers to developing that. And in this hour, you're going to hear from an expert voice coach who's going to really help you to develop your voice. And I will talk about all those layers and how it is possible for you, even though they say that public speaking is one of the most feared things on the planet. You can develop a voice and be able to present yourself in a way that does allow you to let your beautiful personality shine through. So I just wanted to start, jumping right into the conversation. So I'm going to say hello and welcome to my good friend, Hugh Wilson, who is an expert when it comes to voice coaching. He is a corporate trainer. He is the founder of Coach the Voice. And he is a wealth of knowledge in the world of broadcasting, film, and television, decades of experience. I know that he's worked on more than 100 major market film projects, including working with the Rolling Stones, Paul McCartney, and a ton of others. And it's such a pleasure to have you here, my friend Hugh Wilson. Thank you for
Hi.
being here.
You make me sound way cooler than I actually am. So I'm gonna record what you said, and I'm gonna take it with me wherever I go. Whenever I
Yeah.
walk into a room, I'm gonna say, 1 second, I have to play what Tanya said, because Tanya makes me sound, I'm not that cool.
Oh my
Really.
God. Listen, I think you're even cooler because, you're like this like surfer dude, paddle boarding and all this stuff. So I actually love, the many layers that you have as just a human and a person. So it's so great that you now are able to, share your knowledge. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing, right? So let's talk about, what does it mean to develop a voice? It's like, well, okay, I know I want to have a voice, but what does that even look like?
I guess the most interesting thing about it, Tanya, is you've been in broadcasting for years and years, as I have,
Hmm.
and we hear people we like, and we don't know why we like them, but they have a melodic tone or a timbre or a sound, and you go, "Gosh, I like listening to you." Or someone say something silly like, I heard your voice recording on your phone message, if that's even a thing anymore, and people say it just sounded nice, and everyone searches for that, and it's doable by anybody. And it's not finding a big voice, it's not a loud voice, it's not a robust voice. The challenge is to find your voice, and that's the magical thing. When you did the intro, you really hit it on the head. It's about finding your ability to connect. It's not my ability to talk. No, I don't want to.
Mhm.
Anybody can talk. I want to connect with you. I want to get to know you. I want to understand you. I want to speak to you. But actually, more important than talking is learning to listen. And that's way more
Oh,
important. And nobody
yeah.
talks about that when they talk about speaking. They talk about it over here with mindfulness and communication, but they don't talk about it with speaking.
Yeah, that's
So that's kind
interesting.
of what I do.
Yeah, and I love that, and you're absolutely right about the listening. I think that's a skill that so many people, they haven't mastered it. They haven't mastered it. And when it comes to the world of speaking, sometimes we can fall into that, talking at somebody. Nobody wants to be, talked at, right? They want to have that connection, as you say, to be a part of that conversation. And listening is definitely one of the layers that really allows for connection. I think one of the biggest things, that people want is to really be heard. And when you feel that you are heard, then that really allows you the comfort to now start to speak your truth, fearlessly speak your truth, right? It gives you that comfort level. And so is that something that you incorporate in terms of your training, is finding that comfort, that space, and allowing someone else to, I guess, be vulnerable in a sense?
It's interesting you put it that way, because when I train at the corporate level, and an example, we'll do a team training, and let's say there's 20 people in a room. We spend so much time in our trainings teaching people to listen and slowing the pace of the meeting down, because we are also concerned about our credentials, and I'm an MBA and I've got this and I worked here for so long, and we slow it right down. And it's so hard to get people to tell you about themselves. And the first thing we'll do quite often is, Tania, tell me about you. And the first thing Tania will do is go into her educational history and where she works. No. You, what did you do last weekend for fun? And everybody gets all flustered and uptight because executives don't talk about fun.
Yeah,
And you
right.
slow them down again. No, tell me what you did last weekend. And they stare at you. Well, tell me what you had fun. Did you go play? Well, they get flustered again. And you keep breaking things down just to get people to talk in an open manner. And then you get the other people in the room to actually listen to that person. And then all of a sudden it's far more interesting, because we learn about the person, not the title, not the education. We learn about the person. And it's so strange, because at the end of certain sessions, people stop and they're like, I have not actually told someone about me in a very, very long time. And it's magical. And people
Wow.
really enjoy it. And then we'll do those workshop bonding exercises where you have to listen to the person. Then we go into an interview process where they talk about the person. Then you have the person who listened. I'll ask them, now, come on up to the front, to the lectern, and I want you to tell me about that person. And you want me to tell you about them? No, I want you to tell the whole room about that person at a very personal level. And again, it slows the room down and it connects people, and they bond and they start thinking like humans, not what's my title on my business card, where did I go to school, and how much money do I earn? And the connection starts developing. It's like everything you have ever said to me about what you're doing now. It's the time to connect. The time we've talked about this, you and I, where we want to take the time to respond, not react. There's an expectation where we've got to react. I have to show my value in the meeting. So I have to make sure I say something, and I've got to spit it out. Well, why don't we slow the whole process down a little bit? Give the person the respect to listen to what they have to say, and then respond. It works.
Oh, I love that. And, that's such a beautiful way to, create that connection, because people identify with not the title or the education. I mean, they might think it's great or whatever, but to really connect and identify with someone, it's the humanity, in the everyday life, in the who you are as a person that someone can relate to. And now it creates that beautiful trust. You're letting somebody into your space. They're now more comfortable to share their own personal experience as well. So it's at a whole different, complete level when you can slow things down. Now, we do live in a very fast-paced world. I think we have been, slowed down through this global pandemic, right?
Slow down. What is that? March 6th, I think, was when the GTA slowed right down.
Yeah, like a big, huge pause. And I think the world needed it, because, we're stuck in that perpetual motion of always having to do, having to be, having to create. And it just became the norm. So I think it was very hard for many people to slow down. And even if they knew that they had like a vacation, let's say, coming up, it's still hard to switch that, from that really busy pace space, by the time you wind yourself down, vacation is over. So it's really an interesting time that we are in this space of, in the midst of this COVID pandemic, because we all have been forced now to adapt, to make changes. And it is also a great lesson and an eye opener, I think, in terms of, what are the values? What is important to you? And yes, I understand that, we all have to earn a living. We have to be proactive, and there's certain things that we need to do, and so it's finding the balance, I think, that is the most important thing. And that balance sometimes is so skewed. So it is a great opportunity, I think, for us to really, take your advice in terms of slowing things down. So how do we slow things down, in our own life, in our daily environment, given the circumstances?
That's, Tanya, that is such a tough one, man. If I had that answer,
Yeah.
the difficulty we're going through, and I have so much respect for people and their time and how hard they work, because I've seen people who are portraying themselves as the gurus of all that is good and wellness in the world, and they're walking on beaches and drinking smoothies and living this wonderful life during this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yet conversely, we have people who can't pay the rent,
Mm-hmm.
can't get food, are going to food banks at a number we've never seen before in this country, yet we want to talk to them about taking walks on the beach. I'm not saying we, but
Yeah.
I've seen people who portray this lifestyle, the Instagram pop-ups and things, and I go, well, that's wonderful. And that really is an altruistic, perfect way of looking at things, but it's trying to find the balance. Now we've had our balance forced upon us.
Mm-hmm.
So if you found a way to pay the bills and you can put food on the table, and then maybe that's now the time that you have that extra cup of coffee. My joy right now is I start every morning is a cup of coffee with my wife. And
beautiful.
Those days didn't exist for a very, very long time. And you and I both came from the wheel of corporate broadcasting,
Mm-hmm.
and you for probably close to 20 years, me for 22 years, where it never stopped. You're out of the house at 6 a.m. and you're sitting in traffic for 2 hours. You put in a 10 or 12, an 8-hour workday was a very rare thing.
Yeah.
And then we sat in traffic for 2 hours to get home. That was just the way life was.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's a very different life.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that you just get so used to that pace that you believe that that's the norm, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And so now I just think it is an opportunity to say, okay, well, what is the new norm? And clearly the world is shifting and there will be a new norm. And unfortunately, there's some real, tragic moments and realities for people. And I'm certainly hoping that we can see a beautiful shift in that regard as well. But it's also a great lesson and the importance of community and people coming together to help others who are in need and who are having a tough time, in terms of the mindset and the mentality of dealing with this. I mean, it's stressful. It's something that we have not experienced before in our lifetime. And so there's a huge opportunity to adapt. And, I think it's really important at this time to really maintain and stay true to yourself, who you are as a person, and maybe starting to uncover some of those layers that have been hidden, that you've suppressed, and not let that authentic being come out because of the stresses and the pressures of society or what have you. So I think that it really does tie in beautifully to developing our voice and what that looks like, and what that can become. And so I think it's so important to be fearless in sharing your truth. So what are some of the, the techniques that you would use with somebody who is wanting to really start to have confidence in speaking and sharing? Because I think really at the end of the day, it's about sharing and telling a story, right? And enriching
Completely.
the lives of others.
The interesting thing I come across on a very regular basis is a trainer who tries to sell a silver bullet of cure your fear. Well, the only cure for stage fright is the stage, doing more of it. There is no way in this world to cure stage fright. You can't allay your fears, your nerves, or any of it other than by doing it. You can't become a better hockey player by watching YouTube videos. You become a better hockey player by, or COVID hair falling down here. You become a better hockey player by playing hockey. And that's what speaking is, getting up there and speaking and then doing it again and doing it again. And the next thing you know, you're getting better at it because you've done more of it. But the key to being amazing is your preparation. It's the connecting with the people. It's the 3 tangents of listening when you have a speaking engagement. Now, most people will not have let's use that big title, a speaking engagement, a keynote speech. Most people, their speaking can start with the very basics of grace at Thanksgiving dinner, and they're terrified to do that. And that goes then, say, to a basic presentation in a small meeting in their company. And they want to be better at that. They're not a keynote speaker. They're not getting up on a stage in front of 5,000 people. They just want to be better when they get up to give their 2 minutes at the annual weekly sales meeting, however that works in the business or life with your family that you lead.
Mm-hmm.
And the one key you can invest in is the 3 tangents of listening. And that is, prior to speaking, listening to what's going on around you, being aware of what is going on, being connected to the people that you are either in your family, your social circle, or who you work with, so that you are aware. And that means listening to them, listening to what is going on in the room, and then you insert that when you speak. And it's amazing because people are like, how did you know that? Well, you were talking over here regarding your sister's baby, or the sales meeting that you had gone to, or something that was happening in your life. And you were focused and conscious and connected enough to listen to that. You weren't just 100% wound up in your own thoughts and what you're going to say. You were still listening to them. Tangent number 2 of listening, that same process while you're speaking, to absorb what is going on in the room, not lost in tunnel vision with what is coming out of your mouth, but to be comfortable with what you're saying. You've prepared it, but you're still connected to the people in the room, listening to what is going on. And here's the weird one, listening with your eyes and listening with your ears, because you're seeing what is happening. You're monitoring the room. You're seeing if they're connecting with you. You hear what is being said. And if there is an opportunity again while you speak, if you can adapt, detect, and correct as you speak, that's where the true magic happens. That's where people in business and in life are the people you are so eloquent and beautiful, and you find connection and you talk to me. Well, it's because you listened before you spoke, you listen while you speak. And then the third element is to listen when you're done. Not just, oh, gotta go, I'm out of here. It's that 1 or 2, 3, 5, or whatever, however many minutes of connection you have when you're done, to talk to your peer group, to talk to your family, to talk to your social circle. And then you tuck those tidbits of information because you were listening, not so wound up in what was coming out of your mouth, to put that away, to connect with them. And I will say, I had some exceptional leaders in my broadcasting life. And I won't throw names out there, but there was one man who was the president of Rogers Media. Mm-hmm. And he would do those 3 things. And when he saw you 6 months later, he remembered everything that had happened. And it was just a magic. And you left feeling like you were the king of the world. Mm-hmm. This hugely important executive remembered my name, my kids' names, if I had a dog or not, and what I did on the weekend for fun. He didn't really want to know about my budget because he felt that would work itself out. If I was happy within myself and my connection to my company and my people, my tribe, it would get better. And it does. That's what I do.
That's incredible. And again, all related simply to listening. People feel validated, they feel significant, they feel heard. And again, that creates that space of being able to now share more and you're wanting to share more. So, great experience. And I think from the flip side of it, we can always tell someone or tell when someone is not listening to us. It doesn't make you feel good. And you were talking about how, the eye and the ear contact, see, what you're hearing is so important, because when you're having a conversation with someone and, they start rolling their eyes, or, their body language looks like they're so disinterested, then...
What was that?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah.
Mom, are you talking?
Yes.
I'm checking my messages. Tell me when you're done.
Yeah. See, I feel totally disrespected. I feel unheard. And that's
How
not a good
often
thing,
does that
right?
happen
Yeah.
in your life?
Mhm.
We're hoping it happens fewer and fewer, or maybe it's becoming worse and worse, but it's the respect I have for you, both as an old friend, an educator, and a person, that we give you the time to connect.
It's so true. You were also talking about how people are always kind of like, thinking about what they're going to say, and they're making that more important. But then you really miss hearing what's being said. And we also know that when somebody is in that space, because it's like, they're just waiting to just jump in,
Waiting. I want to
waiting,
jump
waiting,
in.
like a
Yeah,
horse
gotta
at the
go.
gate.
Here we go.
Yeah.
And we're doing it where I got something to say and I can't wait till she's finished because I have to be heard and I've got something I want to tell, but I've completely forgotten what you were talking about because I was so concerned with my mouth. Like,
Yeah.
that's how it happened.
Or they'll like, think they've come up with something that's so beautiful and is this perfect golden nugget of what they want to say. And then now the person continued talking and they still want to just, put that out there, but it's no longer relevant to the conversation, but they still just want to throw it out there because it's like they're so proud that, hey, I had this really great idea. It's okay. Save those great ideas for an appropriate time. So it's interesting because, I mean, there are, again, so many layers of developing a beautiful voice. And I think everyone, of course, does have the capacity to learn and to develop. And we're going to continue the conversation. We're going to take a short break right here on the Mindset Mentor on Sauga 960 AM. Back with Hugh Wilson, the founder of Coach the Voice, and also, by the way, he is plays Dr. Dillon on the Netflix series, the Ponysitters Club. Did I get that right, Hugh?
Nailed it.
Yes. All right. So we're going to
We'll
talk
talk
about
about that
that.
when we come back. We'll tell you all about that.
Yes. Stay with us. Well, hello and welcome back to the Mindset Mentor on Sauga 960 AM. We are continuing the conversation on how to develop your unique voice. My dear friend Hugh Wilson is joining us for this hour, sharing his expertise. He is the founder of Coach the Voice. He's also been in the broadcast and film industry for many years. I don't want to,
Be kind. Be kind.
Well, no, listen, you just have so much knowledge. And I also, want to say that I learned a lot, from you in the broadcast world. And so I think, part of my success and where I am today is attributed to you, my friend. So I
Wow.
thank
Hold
you.
on. Were you tearing your hair out or was I tearing my hair out as we were solving problems? I remember you coming into my office and we would work through things.
Yeah.
I would listen to you.
Yeah, I got to say you are a great listener, and I think some people have an innate ability to listen, but it is certainly a skill that can be built upon and learned and honed. And so we definitely were talking about that before we took a break, and just when we were heading to the break, we started talking about your experience in film and television. So Dr. Dillon, yes,
Dillon.
on the Netflix series, the children's series, original children's series, The Ponysitter. So tell us about that. How did that happen, and what was that like?
Be about 2.5 years ago, when I left corporate life and when I started Coach the Voice, my old agent called me up and said, "Hey, you're going to go back in front of the camera again." And I went, I'd never really thought about it. And she said, "No, you're just going to do things you want to do. You're not going to go to the cattle calls." And I said, "Okay, I'm in. I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to do Coach the Voice. We'll develop the company, but I'll still go to the odd audition." And this one came along and she called me up and she said, "You are Dr. Dillon." And I was, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, he's an older, retired veterinarian who knows his way around horses and the farm, of course, and loves kids and dogs and everything like that." And I went, "That sounds like fun." And then she said, "You're going to audition." So I auditioned, got the part. I went to a farm and auditioned with real animals to give myself some authenticity. And we had horses, so I know my way around a horse. And then I ended up landing that role, and it became a Netflix original series. We did 2 seasons, and they're just ready to release 2 Ponysitters movies. The Ponysitters movies are coming out, so fantastic. The Ponysitters is on Netflix. You got 2 seasons of that, and you've got 2 feature films coming out. The one is called Fun at the Fair, and I think number 2 is called The Sleepover.
Wow, that's so
And
exciting.
more fun than I've ever had in my entire life. And I don't think I've done anything harder, because if you're shooting all day on Tuesday, all evening Monday is spent memorizing. Oh, and the older you get, the harder that is.
Yes, I can imagine. That's not easy.
You haven't had
So
to do that in a long time, have you? When was the
yeah,
last time you had to memorize pages and pages and pages?
it's been a long time. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
me
been
too.
years, I would say, for sure. Yeah, and so I want to talk about that experience of the audition process, because that is where I think you really need to be confident, find your voice, speak your truth, and be who you are. It's so funny because I remember, so many auditions that I went to, they'd say, be yourself. And I was like, what the hell? I hated it when
Just
they
be yourself.
said that. Like, it's like, okay, well, who else am I going to be? But there's so many things going on at one time that you're thinking about things, or you're trying to be somebody that you're not, because you're trying to be a character, or somebody else got this part last time, so you're trying to take some of those elements. So being yourself is so important, but I don't think anybody really kind of knows what that means until you really are truly 100% confident in who you are, and then it's just like, okay, I am myself.
You said it. You said it right there, and that's how we encapsulate it. Because I get fed that every time I do a training. It is inevitable. Every time we do a workshop, someone says we're just supposed to be ourselves, and I say, I totally agree with you, but let's make you the best self you can possibly be. Because if you're just going to be yourself and you're a bit of a train wreck, that's going to hurt your career. And
Mm-hmm.
most of what I do with people is they're attempting to find their true voice to aid in their personal lives and their careers. And if you just want to be yourself, well, go ahead and do that. And I'm going to say this and try not to hurt my business. There are unicorns among us who are just amazing no matter what happens. But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, so many people do need help finding their true voice, the be yourself that is the best self they can possibly be. And when they
Yeah.
find that, they're amazed because they didn't know they could do it. It's in you. It's in everybody. And the voice is a muscle. It's just like if you're going to apply yourself to going to the gym or running or playing tennis, the voice is exactly the same. Your voice is a muscle and a mindset. You can get your head around it. You can make it work, and it's magical. I love what I do.
Oh, yeah, I know. And it's so clear and so evident that you're living your passion and you are doing what you love. And I think one of the greatest gifts, for anyone is that you can share your authentic gifts to the world and help and teach other people. So I think what you're doing is just incredible. Not only on, of course, the corporate scale, being a corporate trainer and leader, but also, just with individuals. I think that is so key and so important. And the fact that you had the courage to start up and now be the founder of Coach the Voice, that's great. It takes a lot of courage, right, to start up any business, and to reinvent yourself. I think that's part of finding out, who we are. And it's always an evolution. I think it can be very challenging when we are stuck in one fixed identity, and we resist change, and it's so important, I think, to move forward, to find the change. And your voice may develop, obviously, throughout the years. Different life experiences bring us to a different level, and it's so great to be able to bring that out of people, and let them know what they're capable of. So many of us live a life, not being able to fully express ourselves because we've been told that, well, why are you doing this? Why are you behaving like this? You shouldn't do this. We're told that we have to be somebody else, and we suppress everything. And that leads to all of our limiting beliefs. And that just presents so many challenges in life. And then you have to work with someone to start peeling away the layers of those limitations. And that can be such a huge challenge. I mean, it is a challenge. I mean, I've lived it myself. for many years of the self-doubt, the limiting beliefs that I had. And I had a ton of them, I really did. And it was a process, right, to start to eliminate them. And so that's why I feel it's so important that we all look at what our unique gifts are. What are your talents? What can you share with the world, right? And so you now are sharing your talents and your gifts with so many people. And also I love that your range is so, vast. It's not just, the top, corporate leaders, the professionals, it's the younger generation as well. So what kind of similarities do you find in that range? Because we're all human beings at the heart of it all, right?
Here's the interesting thing, Tanya, is when you work with executives, it's a very different vibe. It's a very different feeling because many of them lived the corporate life that I live. And that's why I can work with them, because I can say to them, hang on, I'm not an actor who's coming in here to tell you how to be an actor. I lived your life. I was a Rogers media executive for 22 years. I lived the endless meetings and presentations, and you had to learn from those. And then when people start, oh, hang on a second, you were in this world. I lived what you're going through. So let's take that and learn from it. But then we incorporate so much of the acting and the voiceover work, because I have found that when you teach people to think and process like a performer, it gives them a process and a tool and a way to work. Because for most people, they'll hear a voice, and whether that voice is on the television or the radio, say it's your favorite news anchor, you're not entirely sure why you like that person, but it is their delivery. It's their style, their substance, the way they connect with you. And that's what we try to teach when we teach people how to develop their voice. The other end of the spectrum from the executives, and this is my favorite thing in the world, I'm going to totally name drop here. I teach extensively at Ryerson University, and I work with the MBAs and the profs and the teaching assistants. I love it. I absolutely love it, because they want to learn, and they know that I have lived the life that they wish to aspire to. Mm-hmm. But I also have this kind of this sideways acting thing that they just think is coolest thing ever. It gives me just a little bit more cred when I go in there, because they want to talk about being on TV and commercials and all the voiceovers. And then we talk about, well, you can engage that way of thinking in the way you present and the way you speak. And then here's an interesting one. You're going to get a kick out of this. Yeah, but I don't want to be a performer. Well, here's the trick, people. Every time you open your mouth, you're being auditioned. Every single time you speak, you are being judged in business and you're being auditioned. So let's find a way to make you the best performer you can possibly be without hurting your true self one little bit. Let's dig deep. Let's peel back some of the layers, and let's get you out there so that you have the confidence, the tools, and the understanding, so that when you do open your voice, you sound wonderful. It's so much fun.
Oh, I love that you said that. And that's so interesting, because at first you were like, oh my gosh, every moment you open your mouth, you're being auditioned. And
Isn't that horrible to say?
Yeah, I was like, that's scary. Like, oh my gosh, right?
Is it true? You can't deny that. Mm-hmm. And people wish to deny that. Well, I don't want to be a performer. Listen, you are. You're a performer. And every time we open our mouth in business or life, we're doing one of two things: educating or selling. You're either trying to get someone on board with a concept, or you're trying to tell them about something or teach them. So as you get your head around that concept, you're either educating or selling every time you speak. That's what you're doing. So you have to be able to connect with them so that you can in turn give them your information. So we impart knowledge. We look for understanding. Once the people believe in it, then they will act upon it. That's how it works. And that's what we do every day.
Yeah. And also, and if you think about auditioning, every time you go to an audition, the next one should get a little bit easier, a little bit easier, a little bit easier, because now you know what to expect. So I think, we'll also be able to train ourselves in that regard, that, just put yourself out there, start speaking. Well, we all speak, but, start sharing and sharing your stories, and it gets easier. It gets easier, doesn't it?
There's no way around it. There's no way you can go to your first audition or your first budget presentation, let's use those as parallels, and think you're amazing. You're not.
And it's okay to not be amazing.
It's okay. But by the time you've done 50, Isn't it funny how amazing you got good and you don't know how you got good? Well, you did it over and over again. You thought about it. You practiced it. You had better material. You became comfortable with yourself. And then
That's a
it
big
got
one.
better and better and better. And then all of a sudden, presto, you're an overnight success.
Yeah, isn't it funny when people always say, "Oh, this person was an overnight success," and they fail to see the real hard work behind the scenes of what it took to actually get to those points. Like I remember it was a singer, I can't remember who it was, maybe Luther Vandross, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, everyone." He came out with a song. They're like, "Oh, it was amazing. He's an overnight success." He's like, "Yeah, they didn't see the 12
Yeah,
years that I spent writing jingles." Right?
absolutely.
Yeah, for commercials or whatever. So I mean, there is definitely always a progression in anything in life, and it's building and building upon that. And if we can have the focus, and I think it's a great way to create that focus now by saying, "Hey, okay, now I'm going to look at it as a performance, and each performance gets better and better." So,
Absolutely. Gretzky wasn't born an amazing hockey player.
mhm.
Wayne spent hours and hours and hours out there in Walter's backyard rink, pounding the pucks and working on his skill, but he did have it in him. But someone's got to bring it out of you. And I'll say Walter was the spark that ignited that flow within Wayne Gretzky. Everybody has it in them, but how many of us are afforded the opportunity to find the tools to become better at this one skill? And whatever that skill is, whether you
Yeah.
wish to be a better guitar player, you wish to be a better knitter, or you wish to be a better speaker, it's
Yeah.
searching out and applying yourself. Just start, just that little bit.
Oh, okay, that's so good. And we're going to take a break and we're going to come back and talk more about how to ignite that spark, right? To bring out your beautiful talents that you have. They're inherent. Absolutely. All right, stay with us. We'll be back right here on Sauga 960. You're listening to The Mindset Mentor. And welcome back to the Mindset Mentor on Sauga 960 AM. Happy Saturday. I hope you're having a phenomenal day. And we are going to help you work out your mindset and develop your unique voice. Everyone has a voice. Everyone is unique. There's 7.8 billion people on this planet, and there is no one else like you. So you want to showcase your best self and not be afraid to really be who you truly are. I think it's so important to be authentic. We are continuing the conversation with Hugh Wilson, my dear friend. I've known Hugh for decades. We worked together in the broadcast film industry, and it's such a pleasure to have you here, Hugh.
We
Your
must have
wealth
been
of knowledge.
12 years old back then. There's no way we're this old
Yeah,
now.
let's just go with that.
I can
Absolutely.
stick with that. Yeah.
Totally right. But I just love what you're doing now, and your reinvention of yourself, and founding your dream business of Coach the Voice, and helping others to really find and express their voice and to be who they are. It's so important. And there's so many layers of what you do, including working with so many great names in the industry, major market film projects, Rolling Stones, Paul McCartney that you've worked with. I mean, there's so many celebrities, but really everyone is their own celebrity. So I want to talk about, how do we really ignite that spark. We talked just before we took a break. You were talking about igniting that spark, and having, I guess, the ability to really bring out your talents. And what is one of the ways that we can do that? And even to have the confidence, right? Like, I mean, you have the confidence to go out there and audition, and now be Dr. Dillon on the Netflix series, the Ponysitters Club. So obviously that takes courage, and it's not done just by yourself.
You know what takes courage is working with all those amazing little kids. I came home after day one, and my wife said to me, she said, so how was it? And I laughed. I went, I'm the weak link. These kids are phenomenal. So
Wow.
based on what you said about igniting the spark, every now and then a spark's a dangerous thing because it starts a really bad fire.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to be careful because you want to make sure that fire is under control. And the reason I say this to you, and I've mentioned this to so many people, and we talk about finding that person that is your support group. And when you work on a television series or you do a voiceover, and you've done so many of the same things I've done in the studios over the years, there are times you feel comfortable and your best work comes out of you. And that doesn't matter whether you're on the set of a TV series or you're in a boardroom.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel comfortable and you have people around you that support you, we used to say, work with performers that have your back. That's when that little spark has to be nurtured beautifully, because if you take off and turn into a raging fire that's out of control, quite often we end up thinking we're way better than we really are. So to kind of turn this full circle and explain what I mean about that, there's a guy, a dear old friend of mine, and his name is Phil. And Phil worked with me for 15 years at Rogers Media. Mm-hmm. Phil was the guy that would straighten me out. If I thought I was doing something amazing, he would be the guy that I trusted, and he would tell me what was good and what was bad. Or I thought I was doing something wonderful, and Phil would say, well, not so much. That wasn't really great. Well, that was great stuff, man. That was my best stuff. And he's going, but because I respected and trusted him, mm-hmm. we would regroup. And that's the same as working with performers or directors or producers that you trust, that they guide you. So anyone who thinks that they're going to get through this life of your personal life or your business life all by yourself, you're gravely mistaken. You need to find your Phil. You need to find the members of the tribe that will support you and guide you as you do day-to-day things and business things. And the number one thing, you get up and you speak. You need to have that person you trust, who when you're done, that's part of your 3 tangents of listening. You listen to them and you trust them. If we go off half-cocked all the time, thinking we're really all that, nah, you're not really all that. You got so much to learn as a person, to connect with the people and deliver your message. And that goes from both the performance end of it and the content. That's where you need your Phil in your business and family life. My wife is my Phil now. She was 30 years in. She knows the drill pretty well, and she straightens me out. And awesome. Because I trust her.
Go, Karen. Yes.
I know. She straightens me out. And then even if it ends in a fight, mm-hmm. you both still respect each other in work or in life or in love. And you come back and you talk about it some more to find out, well, you're right. What could I do better? And that's what Phil did to me. Phil did that on an ongoing basis. Now, conversely, I did it to him too. Mm-hmm. It was a two-way street. And that's what I find really helps people.
That I think is so important, because you do have to have that feedback, but you also have to be open to listening and receiving that feedback without having your back up. If the person, as you said, you trust that person, because there can be people who in life just want to take you down because that's where they're at in their life, right? So they don't want to see somebody else succeed. Very important to have people around you who can support you, encourage you, and be honest with you, right? To give you that feedback. And sometimes that feedback hurts, and sometimes it's hard to hear. And so that could start that fight. Like, you say you and Karen, she's giving you this feedback and you're like, well, maybe it's an argument. But at the end of that argument, you can say, oh, that's right. Yeah, she was absolutely right. And it allows you the opportunity to now, do something that's better, that works. And I think that, we look at, our failures, so to speak, as being terrible. Those are the most beautiful moments. That's how we really can evolve ourselves. Now, we say that, failure is feedback. It's such powerful feedback, right? It takes
Certainly.
you to the next level.
It does. You couldn't have put it any better. I was going to mention to you that you knew a couple of my vice presidents going back through our Rogers days, mm-hmm. and there was a guy and then a woman who took over after him. Uh-huh. And I don't like using people's names at length because it's their private life, but they were great leaders, and we would fight, and people would be like, "Oh my gosh, this is horrible." What I said, no, we still love and respect each other. And our heated, maybe fight's the wrong word, our heated debate would always end in, you want to have coffee? Because we respected each other's opinion, and you would drill down and work through it so that you found the best solution. And that's why when you speak, it is so important to have your support network of people who can say, you know what, I heard you speak today. That wasn't bad, but maybe you should try this. Mm-hmm. And if you respect them, it works really, really well.
Yeah. And do you have any advice, in that regard of how to not take it personally? Because oftentimes when we get that negative feedback, and it's really something I think within ourselves that we feel like somebody is like, putting us down, or it sort of presses a trigger, a trigger button from something else. And we start to feel insecure. What kind of, advice, or is there a technique that can help us
I
not take
love
things so personally?
I love these discussions because there's no way to not take it personally. It can't
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
done. There's
Yeah.
I keep going back to the magic pill to make it better.
Mhm.
No, it hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But if you respect the person, you take the hurt and your tail between your legs and you step away for 10 minutes and you come back and you're
Mhm.
okay now and they're okay with you. And it isn't a scar that lasts long. It's a kick to
Mhm.
the gut and you
Yeah.
shake it off and you come back. Isn't that right? It
Yeah. Oh,
hurts,
it
but
hurts.
it
Yeah.
doesn't leave a mark.
Yeah.
That's a
That's
kick
what
to the gut.
I'm going to say, that I've taken some of those hits with some of the feedback that I got from you throughout the years. And yeah, it didn't feel good. Right. But I always sat there and I listened, and I really absorbed it. And I'm
We
like,
finished the
okay.
conversations. You never stormed out of my office in a rage.
Yeah.
I've said this to you before, and I'll say this again, and you should be proud of this. Tanya's biggest flaw is she's smart, and the best thing about Tanya is she's smart. When you try to manage her, she's going to come back at you. You're going to force me to make sure that my ducks are in a row and I've got my answers, so that when we talk about it, it's a solid conversation and you want answers and tools to correct. And
Mhm.
that's how we need to conduct ourselves. And that's what we do when we teach the voice workshops and the coach the voice workshops. It's finding the problems. You take the kick to the gut. But I think part of the way I make it special is that I do coach with high fives and attaboys. And
Yeah.
it's gonna hurt for a second, but then
Mhm.
I'm gonna show you how to be amazing. So if you can take the kick to the gut, we're going to turn it around and we're going to show you how to become so much better. And at the end of it, when I get the odd person who will come up to me and say, and this was a girl about 2 years ago, she said, when I came here, I thought I sucked.
Mm.
Now I think I can take on the world. And
Oh,
that meant so
yes.
much to me. I was like,
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
And that's the way she felt. She was taller when she left. She
Mm.
felt better about herself. And we just taught her how to use this. It's a wonderful
Yeah.
tool, and you've all got it. Actually, do we have time for me to share some at-home tips for people to play with if they want to
Yeah,
sound
please.
better?
We have a few minutes, and I'd love for you to share that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll try to be efficient. So we'll give you some free tips here. The first one is the and ah game, which absolutely drove my kids nuts when they were growing up because they grew up with a broadcaster. And I grew up with my two daughters, and we came through the era of like, oh my God, and the Valley Girls.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I felt it was my job as a dad to get them to stop doing that. It didn't really work. They still did their own thing. But we used to play the and ah game because everybody has crutch words. Everyone ums and ahs and hums and this all the way through their dialogue, and it undermines you. It undermines you so dramatically. But if you can learn how to just stop it, and the one way is to play the and ah game. So the next time you're at home with your family, or you're in a car and you're just kind of going about things, pick a topic and throw it at your significant other, your partner, your spouse, or the kids, the grandchildren, the nieces, the nephews, and say just randomly, talk to me about violins. Go. And the first thing they're going to do is go, no, you're out. And then, what do you mean I'm out? Well, you started with and then you
Mm.
go to the next person, and you just we just do it on car rides where we would throw a word back to the kids and say, okay, talk to me about bagpipes. And they're like, Dad, I don't know anything about bagpipes. Well, tell me what you don't know about bagpipes. And then off they go, and learning how to use dialogue and timing and not using amara, because every time they used amara, they got, you're out. That was the end of the
Mhm.
game for you. And we
So
do
good.
this in our corporate trainings, and
Mhm.
people love it because it affords them an opportunity to speak, test themselves, but they also have to make sure they're comfortable with the people in the room, because you're going to fail. And it gets easier as the room goes on, because then they just start slowing themselves down. They start utilizing the pause. They utilize eye contact with the people in the room. They use those moments to do that one important thing. And you know what that is, Tanya?
What's that?
Breathe.
Breathe. Yes, take a breath.
Every time you feel like you're going to and ah your way through it, stop, take a breath, and continue on. Because I have never had anyone say, oh my gosh, did you hear that pause?
Yeah.
No one will
True.
criticize your pause, but they
Yeah.
will criticize your inability to stop saying and ah all the way through. So next time you do that, throw something to the kids in the back seat and say, okay, tell me what you know about coffee. Anything, it doesn't matter. And the goal is really to just get them talking and to get them flowing. Part 2 of that At Home Become a Better Speaker series with Coach Hugh, it's called Narrate Life. And what we do is, as you're walking, talking, living, trying to develop a rhythm to your speech. We like certain people when they speak because there's a rhythm. There's a natural, and I'll talk about it, it's almost like an aerobic beat, where it has a flow and a rhythm. But music isn't played on every note. There's also the negative space where there's nothing there, and that's where the value comes in. So what we talk about is saying to people, you know what, I want you to try this in your downtime. We do it in the trainings where I'll ask them to describe the room, but I say, when you go home today, if you're in the car, if you're on the subway, in theory, it's best when people aren't around or people think you're a little off.
Yeah, yeah.
But I will quite often, you'll be going down the Highway 401, which is obviously everyone knows Highway 401 in the GTA, and talk about what you see. And what that does is it forces the rhythm of your speech pattern, because what you see is changing rapidly. And you can do something simple like say, I'm traveling eastbound on the 401 in the collector lanes, and I can see up in front of me is Avenue Road. There's the Avenue Road exit. Okay, the Avenue Road exit just went by. If I look a little further ahead, look at the next sign says the Don Valley Parkway South. That's an exit sign, and in front of me is a red car, and I can see to the left of me a black car. I can see further ahead a white car, but it's because the elements keep changing. It develops your ability to be smooth in your speech and your cadence without getting tongue-tied.
Yes, without the and the and that thinking. It's like we're searching for the words to say.
There's no time for that if it's going by you. So it's literally like you're a hockey play-by-play broadcaster, where you've got to get it smooth, and the people who are really good at it, they're mesmerizing. Have fun with that. It's good stuff.
Oh, I love it. That's so great. And unfortunately, we are out of time. I wish that we had more time to talk.
Another day.
With that beautiful voice of yours, I could talk to you all day long. And it's been such an absolute pleasure having you here. And thank you for, doing what you do and helping people really to develop and to find their voice. I think before you can develop your voice, you really need to find that voice. And there's so many layers to what you do. So again, thank you so much. And thank you for being instrumental in helping me to develop my voice throughout the years as well.
Tania, I've known you for a long time. I've known so many aspects of your life and how that you've risen to this position and what you're doing, and it's helping people. And that's really what you're the best at it. So keep doing it.
Thank you. Thank you. And likewise, my friend, keep doing what you do. All right, everyone, that's a wrap for today's show on the Mindset Mentor. Make sure you work out your mindset. Your mindset is like a muscle that needs to be conditioned and strengthened. So stay at it and let's be the best versions of ourselves that we can possibly be. So make sure to tune in next Saturday at 11 a.m.